Present live now. Hello and welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. Great to have you in our live stream today. And we are very much excited to have you in this call as we continue our SAP Cloud Lifecycle Management webcast series. And especially for those who have already attended several sessions. So it's great if you are attending again, as it shows that we really provide value with our sessions. Today, we will talk about specifics of a system conversion to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. Our speaker for today is Boris Rubert. Again, this is already the 5th session of Boris, and he is product manager in Cloud Lifecycle Management team. My name is Larissa Brinkman. I'm your host for today, and I'm part of the SAP Global User Groups organization. We kindly ask you to place your questions in the live chat, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. With this, I ask Boris to take over and have a great interaction.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Larissa, for the organization, and warm welcome from my side as well. My name is Boris. I work as a product manager for the software update manager and on system conversion topics. And today, the focus is, as you already know, the specifics of a system conversion to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. We have a series of topics that we present as part of the knowledge transfer for SAP user groups. It's called the SAP Cloud Lifecycle Management Webcast Series. An extract of this is the list that you see here. So I've already done the overview on the software update manager in general. We had a discussion on the migration part of the software update manager and how to tune this option. We had a session together with my colleague Jens on the various downtime optimization approaches that the software update manager is doing. And we had a session introducing the software update manager, abbreviated as SAM tool or SUM tool, as the technical engine for a system conversion to SAP S/4HANA. So my assumption is that you are familiar with those topics, or you may have listened to those sessions before. So now it's the specifics of a system conversion to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. And later this week, we have a section on the downtime optimized conversion approach to SAP S/4HANA, as well as an introduction into the data transition validation tool, a tool that allows you to compare business data prior and after the conversion. We finish up this series with the software update manager news on zero downtime option, and on a 360-degree view on the technical downtime optimization app. Both these sessions are delivered by my colleague Jens. So let's get into the detail. And again, this is an extract of all the sessions that we have for Cloud and Lifecycle Management, and the dates are published on the respective webpage. So you see the link up above. So check those to get the latest information. Title for today is Conversion to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, in brackets, RISE with SAP. So we just have to clarify some terms before we get into the detailed discussion. A system conversion is what we call a transition of one ERP system to SAP S/4HANA. And then saying SAP S/4HANA, we are talking about the on-premise version. So you know that we have different ways to transition to SAP S/4HANA. One of those transition approaches is called a system conversion. It's a one-to-one transition. We convert a complete ERP source system into an SAP S/4HANA system. And at least in the standard setting. It's an in-place procedure where we keep the application server host. So that is what we understand by the term system conversion. Then we have in the title RISE with SAP, which in turn is worth having a couple of sessions. I have to admit, in our context here, I just present you selected details of this overall program by SAP. So RISE with SAP is a comprehensive SAP offering where you get one contract, one contact person for all that is relevant for your system. The program RISE with SAP supports you in the transition to an intelligent enterprise, and it bundles various services for data migration, for the cloud infrastructure of your choice, for process redesign, and much more. So we only pick out a very small fraction of this overall program RISE with SAP. And at least as one illustration, you see here the 5 aspects from cloud ERP, business process intelligence, business platform and analytics, business networks, and outcome-driven services and tools. Much more behind this. And now the third term that is important to discuss is SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. This SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition is one possible deployment model as part of the RISE with SAP offering. So SAP is offering this program RISE with SAP, and that is not restricted to S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. That is one a relevant part, but not all that is part of this offering. And the S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition system as such is a system that is using the SAP S/4HANA on-premise software operated by SAP on a hyperscaler. So it's important, if you hear this term, especially for this session, we are not talking about S/4HANA Cloud. We are talking about S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, which is the on-premise version. And only for this specific deployment model, it is correct to talk about a system conversion. The system conversion approach, again, is converting one ERP system to one SAP S/4HANA system. And that is only true for targeting the on-premise edition of that. And that is what we have if the target is the deployment model SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. That's mainly the same. The last line here says there are minor functional differences between S/4HANA on-premise and S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition, and they are only due to some items on the compatibility scope metrics. That's not a big difference. So again, compatibility scope metrics means we have the classical world ERP, we have SAP S/4HANA. The conversion includes a lot of effort and projects because SAP S/4HANA is different. A lot of areas are simplified. The data model has changed, but not everything has yet changed. And that's what we call the compatibility mode. You are allowed to continue using specific parts of the ERP system, even in the SAP S/4HANA world, as long as this area is not redesigned yet. That's the compatibility scope, and that is on the timeline restricted until specific dates in the future. And now the difference between S/4HANA on-premise and the S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition is only concerning some of those compatibility scope metrics items that may not be fully supported in SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. That's one difference. And of course, we will talk about the other rather technical differences here in this session. That is kind of a starting page on the naming. And now concerning the release strategy, you see a preview here of the release strategy of SAP S/4HANA 2022 that is expected most probably in this month, with the usual schedule that we will have a feature package stack 1, feature package stack 2, things like that. Now the release strategy of SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition is the same. It follows the same release strategy concerning the feature package stack, concept, the delivery, and all that part. So release days, maintenance durations, upgrade path are identical. You can have a look at this respective SAP node that is illustrating this in general, not specific for 2022, but also for this target release that we expect soon. And so from the release strategy, from release dates, it's the same like SAP S/4HANA on-premise and SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. That is one important aspect to be listed here. Now, what else do we have concerning rather the technical way of the execution of the system conversion? And that is that a migration server will be used as an intermediate target. So scenario illustrated here is that you have your ECC system located in your own area, technical area or data center, customer data center here on premise. Typically you have a database host and you have one or several application server hosts with those instances of this ECC system. And the target is that you have your SAP S/4HANA system running in the Cloud Private Edition area and at the hyperscaler. And now what is used here is that this transition is mainly managed by partners. So there are projects driven by SAP consultants and colleagues, but mainly driven by partners. And the regulations that we have in the SAP S/4HANA Cloud environment is that partners do not get access to the operating system level, neither on the application server nor on the database host. And since partners do not have access on the operating system level here, the migration server concept is established. So that means there's a dedicated server that is running here in the private cloud edition area, and the partner will get access to this migration server exclusively. Operating system access. And this migration server host is provided and is been provided during the project until the project is finished. And if the complete project is finished, handover has taken place, acceptance test whatsoever, then this migration server will be decommissioned afterwards. So it's just a kind of landing area where partners can do the necessary steps, and we will discuss those steps, but it's only for the time of the migration as such. What is used is the approach DMO with system move. I assume that you have heard about this approach. Nevertheless, we will have a couple of slides on this approach to emphasize what this is, the benefits and the things to consider. So the partner will execute this DMO with system move to convert the ECC system into S/4HANA and transition the data to the target environment. So actually on the migration server, the partner will have the duty, the task to install an application server, an instance as a kind of skeleton system to be able to execute DMO with system move. And as part of the procedure, the migration server here, the application server host, is connected to the target database, SAP HANA database. So the procedure as such can import the data into the HANA database. And the procedure, the software update manager, can do all that is necessary in the target to really execute a conversion to SAP S/4HANA. Then we have this application server and the content in the database. Afterwards, the system can be shut down. The migration server can be decommissioned, and the colleagues by SAP, they can set up a new application server that is connected to the HANA database, and that will be the final infrastructure then. So the colleagues from SAP, that's SAP Enterprise Cloud Services, so ECS, will reconfigure the system after the handover from the partner. So again, there is the tight interaction between the customer, you, the partner, and SAP. For example, the setup of the migration server will be done by the SAP ECS colleagues. The partner will install everything that is required here, will start the procedure on premise. The DMO with system move will continue the procedure on the migration server so that every required data are stored in the HANA database. Then there will be a handover. SAP will check the system. The SAP colleagues will then decommission the migration server, and then the system is available in the target. That's the general approach using this migration server here. There are specific scenarios where this migration server is not required. You can imagine if SAP services, so SAP experienced consultants or center of expertise colleagues will execute this, then this restriction concerning operating system is not there. Then there would be a direct access or using of a migration assisted service, so that is an exception. But in general, this concept of the migration server is used for this approach of system conversion. I emphasize this again, since there are other transition scenarios to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition as well. But concerning system conversion, that is the approach using this migration server. Now I would like to spend some words on this approach, DMO with system move. So you may have seen this illustration before. DMO with system move is an approach that allows not only to migrate to a different database, but also to change the application server host. So exactly for this scenario, start system, source system is ERP on-premise, and target is somewhere else. In this case, in a hyperscaler environment, DMO with system move can be used. And it's important to mention and to explain that this approach, DMO with system move, has different flavors, how to execute it. And it's important to use the parallel mode, because only the parallel mode will reduce the downtime, as we will see. The idea of the DMO with system move is we start the procedure in the source environment on the ECC system, and then there's a point in time where the directory of the software update manager has to be transferred to the target. And then we can start the software update manager on the target to do the steps required in the target environment, like importing into the HANA database. With the parallel mode, as the name says, we have the opportunity to have both software update manager running in parallel. And that only will allow to have a short downtime for this approach. That is especially important since on the target environment, there are specific phases, specific activities that the software update manager will execute. And those activities are concerning what we call the shadow system and other activities like ABAP load generation. They took quite long, and only with the parallel mode, this is uptime from the perspective of the source system. So during those phases, the end users can continue to work on the source system while the software update manager and the target is already preparing the target system and especially the shadow system. Shadow system is the concept where we anyhow reduce downtime. So we set up a shadow repository that is already on the target level. Those activities are executed on the target environment for the case that DMO with system move is used. Continuing, there are 3 synchronization points where you will have to synchronize the folders of the software update manager in the source and in the target. There's a first dialog, host change move SOT is the phase name. That's explicitly shown on the user interface of the tool. It says it's the first point where you, the administrator, will copy the complete SUM directory to the target environment. And then there is the second dialog in the source where the tool offers to enter the downtime. That's the second point where you do the data transfer. There's a specific subdirectory, the ABAP load directory, where those exports from the source database have been put into. You copy this to the target environment, and then you can continue in the target with the software update manager preparing everything. And then at a specific phase, we will see this on a later slide, you decide to enter the downtime. You let the software update manager execute everything that is still required in the source. And then you do the last copy from source to target. And then the software update manager can execute here what's to be imported into the target database. So there are 3 points where you manually copy from source to target, but the elegant, the nice feature of the Software Update Manager is it offers a script that you can execute to even have continuous synchronization between source and target. Continuous synchronization based on a script is allowed if the operating systems are both Unix-like. This script is based on a shell script triggering rsync as a tool for synchronization. And if these prerequisites are met, you just enter the name of the target host in the source, and then the tool will trigger a continuous synchronization. So in this case, you will not have to consider those 3 synchronization points for manual synchronization. That's the benefit. There's a blog post written 2 years ago that is explaining this DMO with system move, and especially the requirement to use the parallel mode, since 2 years ago there was an actual architectural change in the Software Update Manager so that these shadow system operations are executed on the target. That was a major change in the architectural approach of the tool. That's why I allow myself to emphasize this again. You see here green, that is uptime for the source system, then red will be the downtime. There's this first dialog host change move SOT, where you do the first synchronization to the target. Then on the main downtime transfer, on the downtime dialog, you do the second synchronization. Then the shadow system activities will be started in the target, and you still wait on the downtime dialog of the source. So source system is still available for end users until the target Software Update Manager is telling you, I'm waiting now for importing into the target. Only then you enter the downtime in the source Software Update Manager. That means export of application tables happens. Then the Software Update Manager will tell you at the end, host change stop. I've done everything. Last synchronization point for the team, for the partner, and only then the import into the application table will happen. Again, if we use this script, this continuous synchronization, then even the export in source and the import in target would run in parallel. That would be an even higher synchronization with a lower downtime. Anyhow, as promised, this is the illustration. We have 2 browser windows. This browser window is connected to the Software Update Manager and the source landscape. This is the screenshot of the downtime dialog. I'm ready to enter the downtime. Just tell me when. But we wait here in the source. We let the source system keep on running. We have a parallel window here for the Software Update Manager in the target environment, where we wait until this specific phase is being executed. The EU clone make DT imp, DT for downtime and imp for import. So this means the target Software Update Manager is finished with those shadow phases, shadow activities, and it's waiting for the content to be imported. And then we can enter the downtime in the source environment. That was a short introduction and explanation for the parallel mode for DMO with system move. We have established this DMO with system move since the plain DMO showed that there are potential issues with latency. So we do not support the plain DMO for such a transition to hyperscaler. And we have come up with this approach DMO with system move. Nevertheless, we are currently investigating in a specific approach that may even be simpler. And this approach is called DMO conversion to hyperscaler. This approach shall be used to ease the transition, again, the combination of a system conversion and a transition to hyperscaler environment, especially for SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. We have the same source environment and target environment. The idea is now not to use DMO with system move, but to use a specific plain DMO approach there. And the benefit here is that the approach would be a bit simpler compared to DMO with system move. Nevertheless, we use the proven technology of the Software Update Manager. And if this approach turns out to be really appropriate for the main scenarios, it's still in a pilot phase, but we are evaluating this, then it would even be possible for this approach to go into technical details. Downtime optimized features like downtime optimized DMO or downtime optimized conversion could be used then. So that would even allow shorter downtimes compared to DMO with system move, the parallel mode. The approach as such is applicable for source systems ECC that are not yet on HANA database. So that migration is part of the game. And I mentioned already, we have a pilot phase. So if you are interested in that, you may create an incident to be part of the pilot project. Then we will check whether the requirements are fine. The latency must have specific value, not higher than this specific value, and the bandwidth has to be fine, so that this works. And with this approach, we are only focusing on the technical conversion. So all the other aspects that are relevant for a system conversion, like simplification items, add-ons, all that stuff is the same. So it's just to ease, to simplify the transition as such, the technical conversion. I mentioned that this is a pilot program. There is a link to a blog post that I've written. We started with this calling it DMO to Azure. Now you see the title DMO conversion to hyperscaler that expresses that it's not restricted to targeting Microsoft Azure, although we have a tight integration and cooperation with Microsoft Azure. And it's important to mention this approach is for system conversions only, so only for targeting SAP S/4HANA. A side remark, you see on this list, is only applicable for source systems not yet on HANA database. This applies also for DMO with system move. I have to add, DMO with system move uses the migration feature of the software update manager, and the tool does not support a HANA to HANA migration. So if your source system is already on HANA database, then there are different approaches will be used. For example, you can imagine that with a backup and restore, your system will be provided to the hyperscaler, and then the conversion will take place there at the hyperscaler, or vice versa, first converting, then doing backup and restore. But this will have to be discussed in detail with your partner and the colleagues from SAP ECS. Finishing up with two additional slides. The one is focusing on the questions of third-party add-ons for SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. It is similar to SAP S/4HANA on-premise. That means main add-ons are supported. The restriction that is listed here is it's not allowed to install add-ons that require operating system access. We already had this topic of access to operating system. That is not given for the partners. There is a SAP note that lists the validated and approved add-ons approved by ECS. Here in this SAP note for compatible partner products, there are two additional SAP notes on add-ons listed here for, in general, the on-premise edition of SAP S/4HANA and the installation of uncertified add-ons. So, you know, we have a certification program for add-ons. It is possible to install also add-ons that are not certified, but of course that is with a higher risk, and you have always to evaluate that there is no risk on later activities like system upgrade or similar. And this rather new blog post is focusing on the usage of third-party solutions as part of the Rise with SAP program targeting SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. Last topic in my little overview. Sorry, one more line on this slide. That is a kind of spoiler. There will be a new Open SAP course targeting for SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition that will be announced in October, and that will start in November 2022. Now coming to my last slide, my last topic, that is SAP Fiori. So in such a program where conversion to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition takes place as part of the RISE with SAP program, the SAP colleagues will set up the technical landscape that is required for the usage of SAP Fiori apps. That is, for example, the embedded deployment has to be considered. Deployment of SAP web dispatchers are important. And you have to be aware of the options and the tasks so that SAP Fiori, the Fiori Launchpad especially, are exposed to the public internet. So considering load balancer for the Fiori Launchpad, installation of SSL certificates on the first access point and similar things. The SAP colleagues will configure some test Fiori application versions to verify the setup as such. It's possible to let the colleagues set up additional technical enablement via optional services there. And there's a comprehensive list of checklists and guides available for the Fiori enablement that cover aspects like the SAP Fiori Rapid application, the creation of custom catalogs, unit and integration tests, and much more. That is a point where I would like to advertise the workshop 5 Steps to Fiori. It's a bootcamp offered by Customer Care together with regional implementation groups. And you see the link here to a blog post that is explaining this concept of this 5 steps bootcamp where you can gain experience, especially concerning SAP Fiori. That was my little extract on things that are similar and things that are different compared between system conversion to SAP S/4HANA on-premise and a system conversion to SAP S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition. Thank you very much, and let's see if you have any questions in the chat.
Thank you, Boris. And yes, we have questions in the chat. The first one is, what field in master degree for computer engineer, which is related to coding, is a good conjunction with SAP S/4HANA?
That is most probably a good question, but as this is not directly related to the system conversion to SAP S/4HANA, I do not have this answer at hand. My recommendation is to check the education offering page, so training.sap.com, to look out for offerings there.
Or I would also recommend actually to check Open SAP courses, because they also offer so-called micro learnings, and these micro learnings are of course very much for taking the skills in focus that are really required now. So I think you can broaden your horizon, especially if you are studying and to become a computer engineer. And I will place the link to OpenSAP in the chat for you. And I would most probably recommend to start there, because there you will find most probably the the most required skills, or the most the skills that are currently in focus. Okay, the next question is, hi Boris, hope you are well. It seems the participant knows you. Where does the Cloud Appliance Library fit? It allows, for example, a new installation of S4 on the hyperscalers.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. That allows me to advertise the Cloud Appliance Library, the CAL, which is an excellent approach to have a fast provisioning of systems. And that is, in this context of a system conversion, that is a point where I would say an early point in the project, you may consider to use this to install an appliance and to get familiar with the system as such, the S/4HANA on-premise or S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition system there. So that is a good point. Concerning the technical procedure of a system conversion, there is currently no step where the Cloud Appliance Library is contributing to the approach. We have the source system that is there. We have the target where this DMO with system move, this skeleton is to be provided. That is currently a task where the Cloud Appliance Library is not part of the game. Yeah, thank you.
So the next question is question regarding DMO with system move and network connectivity. In order to ensure proper communication between source and target, sufficient network bandwidth is key, especially to ensure proper synchronization. For customers who do not have MPLS connection with RISE, PCE, and only VPN connection between on-premises and RISE PCE is established. Do you have an estimate on the minimum bandwidth required for the VPN connection for DMO with system move?
Yeah, the bandwidth is, of course, an important influencing factor. So let me first of all say that's also an important question. Now, the approach of DMO with system move can be used even if the bandwidth is poor and the latency is higher, since the transfer from A to B is simply a copy procedure. And so I'm not aware of any minimum bandwidth or highest latency that we establish for this approach, that we proclaim, that we ask for. As again, it's simply a copy transfer of the data, which is different to this DMO or plain DMO approach and different to this pilot approach where we do have minimum numbers. So this pilot approach that I've mentioned there, we have numbers like a throughput of, I don't know, I do not want to tell wrong numbers. You will find this in the blog post there. But for the DMO with system move, of course, the better the throughput is, the better, the shorter the downtime will be. The downtime is drastically, of course, depending on a good throughput, on a good bandwidth. But it's not that I would fear the latency that the approach as such will break, since it's just a copy from A to B. That does not really provide a number to you, but that is my view on this aspect.
Okay, thank you very much. I see in the chat note that some of the PDFs of earlier sessions are not uploaded yet. I will check it right now, but I will also move to the follow-up question to the previous one regarding Cloud Appliance Library. Is it possible to do a system copy after deploying a new S/4HANA system via the CAL to achieve the same result as a DMO conversion to hyperscaler?
I guess so, but I'm not sure, as this is not my area of expertise. So concerning, I know how to use the Cloud Appliance Library and what the benefits are, but I cannot provide a comprehensive answer on that question. Sorry.
Okay. So there is one more question. Any estimate on when would the planned DMO pilot program would be officialized and become mainstream program?
Yeah, good question as well. And often asked questions, when would it be available? We do not have a date when it's definitely be generally available, as it depends on the outcome of the pilot project. So pilot project means that we want to gain experience with real life situations. Of course, we have tested this approach a lot of times internally, but now we want to gain experience with customer landscapes, with bigger systems, and with different operating system combinations there. And the tests and the pilot projects are looking very good, but I cannot tell you it will definitely be first half of next year or something. You will have to check the blog post there and see what news we publish there. And of course, the SAP note on DMO lists this restriction that we currently have that would be removed. That is another indicator. So that's why I'm still a bit vague about this. It depends that we really cover enough scenarios to be confident it works with those restrictions or numbers that we proclaim. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I also, for the previous question, we have got thanks back. I've just placed in the chat the link to the video, one of the videos that we streamed in September, with a link to download PDF in the description to the video. So I'm just curious whether you can check whether you can access the link and download the PDF, because it's important for me to understand whether we have a bigger problem, or because I can see the link for download. It seems to be also available externally, but would be great to get feedback from participants of the session if you can download the PDF. So I don't have more questions in the chat. Let's give one more minute to think, and maybe you can, okay. The next question. For customers running source ECC on Windows, I remember that SAP provided a test non-supported script to perform the parallel copy, which continues synchronization. Do you know that script?
I'm only aware of the script that is delivered with the software update manager. So DMO system move.sh, that can be used if we have Unix to Unix or Linux to Unix. So the question is, does the operating system allow to trigger rsync? And that is, for Windows, that is not the case out of the box. I've heard of some workarounds where you can install a Linux or Unix environment on Windows, and you may trigger this script done manually, but this is nothing that we from SAP officially support. We do not say it's not allowed. If it works and it's a simply copy, then it's fine. Yeah. So that would be the answer. For Windows environment, that's the second thing that comes into my mind. There's the AZ copy tool provided by Microsoft, and this is meanwhile supported for the synchronization. So that is a tool provided by Microsoft to copy from Windows to Windows. Sometimes you have to have a blob storage even in between for the copy, and we have tested this internally, and that is now supported. And this is also written down in the respective SAP note for DMO, that AZ copy with a specific version, I think version 10.2, is now doing the job. That would be another potential answer.
Okay, thank you very much. The question from the same participant: have you ever used that script?
So if this is about the AZ copy tool, I did not use this. We did internal tests, but it was not me that executed this test.
Okay, thank you very much. And I've received feedback in the chat that the PDF is accessible. So these are good news for those who didn't discover it yet. Then please check the replays of the previous sessions, and in the description of the videos, the PDF, the link for PDF download is integrated.
Fine.
Okay, so we are almost at the end of our session. Do we have more questions? I give one more minute for participants to think. And of course, I can only advertise that tomorrow, Boris and I will be on air again at the same time, but with a different topic. Maybe Boris can advertise the topic for tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. So for those who are in the call now can, of course, think of participating tomorrow and
Yeah,
the day after.
you've seen the titles at the beginning of our session. So downtime optimized conversion, that does not apply for the move to SAP HANA, S/4HANA Cloud Private Edition yet, but nevertheless, it's an important thing to consider.
Okay, with this, thank you very much. We receive great feedback in the chat and very positive feedback to you, Boris, for this great session.
Thank you.
And yes, for today, I think we are finished. The replay of this session will be available a few minutes after we finish this session. And as usual, usually I will integrate the link to download the PDF of this session in the description to the video. With this, thank you very much. Have a great day and hope to welcome you in one of our upcoming sessions. Thank you very much and bye-bye.
Thank you.